There comes a moment, my friends, when the heart just stops chasing. Not because it stopped caring, but because it got tired of being the only one running in the race. You reach that point where your soul whispers, "Enough." It's like a storm that finally runs out of rain. You stop overanalyzing every message, stop staring at the screen waiting for their reply, stop wondering if they're thinking about you. You just breathe. And for the first time in a long time, that breath feels clean. That peace inside you, it's not weakness, it's power in its quietest form, because real power doesn't scream, it detaches. You see, folks, when you were chasing them, they felt safe. They had the luxury of taking you for granted. Your love, your attention, your patience, it was like free sunlight every day. They didn't realize that even the sun sets when it's not appreciated. But the day you stop chasing, the day you stop begging for crumbs of effort, everything changes. Suddenly, your silence becomes a mirror. They start to see themselves clearly for the first time, and it scares them. The peace that protects you now becomes the storm that rattles their mind. At first, they'll pretend nothing happened. They'll act like they're living their best life. They'll post fake smiles, rehearse new laughs, and even try to convince themselves they've moved on. But behind that mask, they're haunted by memories that won't let go. Your laughter echoes in their mind when the room gets quiet. Your voice slips into their thoughts when they try to sleep. Your name becomes a ghost that whispers in the back of their head. And the more they try to block it, the louder it gets. That's the irony of letting go. When you stop reaching for them, they start reaching for what they lost. It's psychology, my friends. The mind always wants what it can't have. When you were available, they felt secure. But when you pulled back your energy, they lost their balance. It's like taking oxygen from someone who never realized how much they depended on it. That's why the silence hurts them more than your words ever could. You stopped feeding the connection, and they're starving for the attention they once ignored. That's when they start to notice the little things, the warmth in your eyes, the way your presence made everything feel lighter, the rare peace they felt around you. You became their calm, and now that calm is gone. And that's when reality hits. They realize they weren't the prize. You were. The one with the patience, the one with the loyalty, the one who loved deeply even when it hurt. You see, folks, people only start to see your worth when you stop showing up to remind them, and when that happens, they'll look for you in everyone else, but no one will ever match your energy. They'll compare every new face to yours and find something missing every single time. That's the consequence of taking someone pure for granted. The universe doesn't punish them, it teaches them. Letting go doesn't mean you lost. It means you finally understood your value. It means you stopped trying to pour from an empty cup. It's like dropping heavy stones you've been carrying uphill. Suddenly you feel lighter, stronger, freer. That's when the universe starts working in your favor. You begin attracting peace instead of chaos, respect instead of excuses, love instead of confusion, and that calm version of you. That's the one they'll never forget, because now they see what they destroyed. A person who would have given them everything, but chose peace instead of pain. So, my friends, let go with grace. Let go without fear. Remember this. What's meant for you will never require you to chase it. The one who truly values you will never make you question your worth. You are not hard to love. They just weren't ready to handle real love. And when you finally let go, that's when everything that's meant for you starts finding its way back home. So write this in the comments right now. I choose peace over pain, because that's your new mantra. That's your turning point. And if this message spoke to your heart, press that like button and subscribe. Stay with me, because the next part of your story, that's where the power begins. Number 1, they thought you'd never leave until you did. They thought you'd never leave. They thought your loyalty was endless, your patience unbreakable, your love unconditional no matter how they treated you. They believed you'd always be there, waiting, hoping, forgiving, understanding. That's the illusion comfort creates, my friends. When someone gets used to your kindness, they start mistaking it for weakness. They convince themselves you'll never walk away, no matter how many times they push your limits. But everything has a breaking point, even the softest heart. And when you finally left, not in anger, not in chaos, but in quiet acceptance, they felt something they weren't prepared for, the weight of losing you. You see, folks, people rarely notice the light while it's shining. They notice the darkness only after it's gone. You were that light in their life, and they took it for granted because it was always there. Like the warmth of the sun, they never questioned it until it disappeared behind the clouds. The day you pulled your energy back was the day the temperature dropped around them. That silence, that distance, it wasn't just space. It was a mirror showing them the truth they avoided. You were the one keeping the connection alive. You were the effort, the heartbeat, the glue. And when you stopped holding it together, everything began to fall apart. Carl Jung once said, "People don't see God until they see the devil." In other words, they don't recognize light until they face the void it leaves behind. That's exactly what happens when you leave someone who took you for granted. They have to confront their own emptiness. Their mind goes through withdrawal, not from your presence, but from the comfort your love provided. It's like losing oxygen in a room they thought would never run out of air. Suddenly, they start gasping for the same attention they once dismissed. They might wonder why it feels so different now. Why does everything feel colder? Why does food taste a little duller, nights feel a little longer, and laughter sound a little forced? It's because your energy isn't there anymore. You were their emotional home, and now they're out in the cold. That's the paradox. They thought leaving you would set them free, but it only exposed how much they relied on the peace you brought into their life. Some of you might ask, if they cared, why didn't they stop me from walking away? That's a fair question, my friends. But here's the truth. People don't react immediately when they lose something real. Their pride delays their realization. Their ego tells them they're fine, that they can replace you. But as time passes, that illusion breaks. The mind starts replaying moments, conversations, tiny gestures of love they never valued. And that's when the pain hits, the delayed echo of your absence. It's not the loud kind of pain. It's subtle, slow, and deep. The kind that crawls in at night and whispers, "You shouldn't have let them go." The universe works in a quiet way. It doesn't punish, it teaches. Losing someone who genuinely cared becomes the lesson that reshapes a person. They begin to notice the difference between attention and connection, between attraction and bond, between temporary interest and lasting loyalty. They start seeing what they destroyed while trying to prove they didn't need you. It's human nature. Some people only learn through loss. They thought you'd never leave, and now they live with the consequence of that illusion. You, on the other hand, learned something more powerful. You learned that love without respect is just dependency. You learned that staying too long where you're undervalued drains your soul. And even though it hurt to walk away, something inside you began to heal the moment you did. Because leaving wasn't a sign of weakness. It was an act of self-respect. It was your spirit saying, "I deserve peace more than I need approval." That's Stoicism in its purest form, remaining calm, detached and grounded, even when your emotions try to pull you back into chaos. It's never easy, I know. The mind plays tricks. It'll tell you they'll change, that maybe if you held on just a little longer, they'd finally see your worth. But you've already given enough proof. You showed love through consistency, not promises. You stayed when it was inconvenient, and now it's their turn to realize what they lost when they mistook your patience for permanence. Remember, my friends, sometimes walking away isn't the end of love. It's the beginning of self-worth. And trust me, they will notice. They'll see you glow differently. They'll sense the peace that comes from being unbothered. They'll scroll through your pictures, wondering if you still think of them. They'll replay your laughter in their head and feel a pang they can't explain. They'll wonder who gets your attention now, who hears your stories, who makes you smile the way they once did. That curiosity, that regret, that's the psychological aftershock of losing someone who loved deeply, because what the mind takes for granted, the heart never truly forgets. In time, you'll stop thinking about them entirely, but they'll never stop thinking about you. You'll find new peace, new clarity, new purpose. You'll start realizing that what you thought was love was really a test of how long you'd keep choosing someone who couldn't choose you back. And once you pass that test, the universe starts aligning you with people who recognize your worth the first time. So, if you're sitting here tonight wondering if you made the right decision, let me tell you, you did. You left the version of yourself that begged to be seen. You stopped chasing what was already yours to begin with, peace, dignity, and freedom. The moment you walked away was the moment your story turned from pain to power. So say this out loud, folks, and write it in the comments. I am no longer chasing what's not meant for me. That's your affirmation for tonight. That's your truth. You're not weak for leaving. You're wise for choosing yourself. Press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because the moment you stopped chasing was the moment they started realizing they lost something they'll never find again. Number 2. The energy shift that hit them like a storm. When you finally let go, something invisible changes in the air. It's not something you announce or post about, it just happens. There's a shift, subtle at first, but powerful enough to be felt miles away. The energy that once flowed toward them, the warmth they took for granted, suddenly gets redirected back to you. And believe me, folks, people can feel that. Even if you haven't spoken in weeks, they sense it. The withdrawal of your attention, the quiet retreat of your energy. It hits them like a storm they never saw coming. You see, energy doesn't lie. When you were chasing, they felt secure. They knew your thoughts revolved around them, that your heart was open and vulnerable. But when you detach, you reclaim your power. It's like unplugging a machine that was feeding off your battery. Suddenly their world dims, and they don't understand why. That uneasiness, that emptiness they start to feel, it's not random. It's the psychological vacuum left behind when someone who genuinely cared pulls their energy back. At first, they might shrug it off. They'll tell themselves, oh, they'll come back, they always do. But as days turn into weeks, that false confidence begins to crack. The silence grows heavier. They open their phone, scroll through your messages, and realize the conversation ended because you stopped replying. They check your social media hoping for a sign that you're still waiting, but instead, they find peace in your eyes, glow in your smile, and calm in your words. That's when panic sets in. Because deep down they know something has shifted, and this time it's real. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." What you've done, my friends, is awaken something in them. Your absence forces their unconscious to wake up. Every unhealed part of them starts to notice what your presence once soothed. You were their emotional anchor, their safe place, even if they never admitted it. When that anchor disappears, they start drifting, and the waves of their own emptiness crash hard. It's wild how energy works. When you stop chasing, they start feeling your distance like gravity reversing. They used to be the center of your attention, but now they're just another passing thought. And that shift, it humbles them. They begin to realize that your love wasn't just attention, it was stability. Your voice wasn't just noise, it was comfort. Your care wasn't just routine, it was rare. And suddenly, every memory of you becomes charged with meaning. The same things they ignored before, the way you listened, the small gestures, your patience, becomes sacred in their mind. They might try to replace your energy, but they'll fail. Because what they're searching for isn't another person, it's the feeling only you created. That peace, that depth, that calm connection, it doesn't come around often. So when your energy leaves, it's not just gone, it echoes. It lingers in the back of their mind like a scent they can't wash away. And that's what makes the shift so powerful. Your silence becomes louder than words, and your absence becomes a presence they can't escape. But remember this, folks, the storm that hits them is the peace that heals you. While they're caught in confusion, you're rediscovering balance. You start sleeping better, thinking clearer, walking lighter. You begin to understand that what left your life was not your loss. It was your lesson. The moment you pulled your energy back, you stopped being a participant in their chaos and became the calm in your own story. So let the storm rage in their mind while peace settles in yours. That's the beauty of detachment. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to explain. The energy shift speaks louder than any words ever could. Say this out loud and write it in the comments, my friends. My energy is my power, because that's the truth. Protect it, value it, live it, and stay with me, because the next time they feel your absence, it won't be silence they'll hear. It'll be the sound of their own regret. Number 3. Your absence speaks louder than every word you ever said. Your absence, my friends, is the loudest message you'll ever send. And you don't even have to say a word. When you stop showing up, stop explaining, stop defending yourself, that silence starts echoing in places your voice never could. You see, people hear your words, but they feel your absence. And when someone loses access to your energy, your time, your warmth, they start realizing just how much noise you were keeping out of their life. You were the calm before every storm, the peace they didn't appreciate until it was gone, and now that peace is haunting them. You might think they've moved on. Maybe they're laughing, posting, pretending everything's fine. But don't be fooled by performance. The truth is, when someone who truly cared disappears, the silence doesn't just fill the room. It fills the mind. Every corner of their day starts to whisper your name. They notice the moments that used to include you, the good morning text, the check-in during lunch, the simple get home safe at night. Those small things, the ones they dismissed, now hit harder than they expected. Because those weren't just habits. They were proof someone out there genuinely cared. It's human psychology. The mind gets addicted to emotional patterns. When you were present, they felt validated. They might not have admitted it, but your care regulated their emotions. You were like sunlight on their bad days. But when you left, their system went into withdrawal. Suddenly, they're restless for reasons they can't explain. They start opening old chats, revisiting your pictures, even hearing your voice in the quiet. It's not magic, it's memory doing what it does best, reminding them of what they lost. Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists." And that's exactly what happens here. The more they try to forget you, the stronger your absence grows, because you can delete messages, unfollow accounts, even block numbers, but you can't erase emotional impact. The heart doesn't operate on logic. It operates on energy. Your absence becomes a mirror, forcing them to look at what they avoided, their own neglect, their arrogance, their failure to value you when they had the chance. Think of it like music, folks. Words are like the lyrics, but your presence, the energy behind it, is the melody. When the song stops playing, the silence feels unbearable because the melody is still ringing in their mind. That's what you've become, a tune they can't unhear. They might not understand it at first, but over time it starts to ache. Because while they were busy proving they didn't need you, life started proving otherwise. And here's the truth that stings them most. You didn't need closure to move on. They did. You didn't need to announce your healing. You just started living it. That calmness, that glow, that peace in your energy, it's louder than any explanation. It tells them, I no longer need to prove my worth to those who couldn't see it. And that, my friends, is what breaks their pride more than anything. Because they expected you to come back, to chase again, to keep giving. But instead you walked away with grace, and that silence became your power. They'll start to wonder, do they still think about me? Do they still care? And that uncertainty is what drives them crazy, because now they're the ones overthinking, the ones rereading messages, the ones feeling replaced. That's how the tables turn, not through revenge, not through anger, but through peace. You stopped explaining yourself, and now your silence explains everything. So understand this, your absence doesn't mean defeat. It's a declaration. It's your soul saying, I choose to protect my peace over proving my point. And once you reach that stage, you'll never beg again. You'll never chase again, because you'll finally understand that the loudest voice in the world is quiet confidence. Say this out loud and write it in the comments, my friends. My silence is my strength. Because it is. You don't need to speak for them to understand. You just need to stay gone long enough for your absence to echo louder than your presence ever did. Press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because this silence you've mastered isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your power. Number 4. Why they suddenly remember every detail about you. It's strange, isn't it, my friends? The same person who once acted like you didn't matter suddenly starts remembering everything about you. The way you laughed mid-sentence, the way you pronounced certain words, the scent you left behind on their hoodie. They remember the songs you liked, the shows you watched, even the tiny things you said that seemed meaningless at the time. It's almost like their mind won't give them peace. And there's a reason for that. It's not coincidence, it's psychology. When someone loses what grounded them emotionally, their brain starts replaying every little piece of that connection. It's their subconscious trying to hold on to what the ego foolishly let go of. At first, they might try to distract themselves. They'll bury the memories under noise, new people, new routines, new distractions. But no matter how hard they try, certain moments break through. Maybe they pass a place you once visited together, and suddenly it feels like time stops. Maybe a scent in the air brings them back to a night they thought they'd forgotten. Or maybe they hear your favorite song somewhere random, and it hits like a punch they didn't see coming. That's not nostalgia. It's unfinished emotion resurfacing. It's the mind's way of saying, you weren't supposed to lose this. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate. That's what they're living now, fate disguised as flashbacks. They tried to ignore you, but your energy imprinted on them. Every person leaves a psychological fingerprint, and yours? It runs deep, because you were genuine in a world full of half-hearted connections. You gave them something rare, safety. You understood them without words, stood by them when it wasn't convenient, believed in them when they didn't believe in themselves. That kind of bond doesn't vanish, it lingers. You see, folks, the human mind doesn't forget emotional impact. It forgets words, but it never forgets how someone made us feel. That's why they suddenly remember everything. They're not just recalling moments, they're reliving emotions. They remember the comfort of your presence, the sound of your patience, the feeling of being understood. They remember because they can't replace it. Every time someone new enters their life, their mind compares. It's not a conscious choice, it's instinct, because you set a standard without even trying. And now they're realizing something painful. The details they once found ordinary were the things that made you extraordinary. The way you listened, the small notes you left, the care in your tone. It wasn't just affection, it was home. And now they're homeless in a crowd of people. That's why they keep remembering, because memory is how the heart copes when it realizes it let go of something irreplaceable. But here's where the power shifts. While they're stuck replaying the past, you've moved on to peace. You're not remembering, they are. You're not haunted, they are. Because you already processed your pain while they're just beginning to face theirs. That's how the universe balances things out. It doesn't punish through revenge, it teaches through reflection. And their reflection is now filled with the ghost of everything they ignored. You might wonder, do they still care? Oh, they do, more than they'll ever admit. But pride is a stubborn wall. So instead of reaching out, they'll sit in silence, drowning in the noise of memories. They'll scroll through your pictures in the dark, re-watch your stories anonymously, and wonder if you still think about them. That's how it always goes. They remember every detail about you because losing you wasn't just the loss of a person, it was the loss of peace, balance, and genuine connection. So let them remember, folks. Let them replay it all. Because every flashback they have is proof that you were real. You were never the mistake, they were. And every time they think of you, it's not pain they feel, it's realization. Realization that love like yours doesn't circle back twice. Say this out loud and write it in the comments, my friends. I am unforgettable energy, because you are. You left an imprint no storm can wash away, no time can erase. Press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because the same energy they can't forget is the energy that's about to attract everything truly meant for you. Number 5. The mirror effect. How losing you forces self-reflection. When you finally walk away, my friends, something powerful happens, not just in your life, but in theirs too. Your absence becomes a mirror. It shows them who they really are without your love covering their flaws. When you were there, your energy softened their rough edges. You were patient, forgiving, understanding. You gave them the benefit of the doubt every single time. You made excuses for their coldness and believed that deep down they cared. But when you left, that mirror turned on, and suddenly they had to face the person they became in your absence. It's not a pretty sight. Because the truth is, your presence protected them from themselves. That's the mirror effect. Losing you forces self-reflection, and most people aren't ready for it. When they look at their life without you in it, they start to see the truth they avoided, their emotional immaturity, their fear of vulnerability, their inability to appreciate something real. When you were there, they blamed you for their discomfort. They said you were too emotional, too intense, too much. But now, as the silence settles in, they realize you weren't too much. They were too little. They lacked depth, patience, and self-awareness. You simply mirrored back what they couldn't face within themselves. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." And that's exactly what your absence does. It becomes their lesson. You were their mirror, and now that you're gone, they can't escape their own reflection. They see how carelessly they handled someone who only wanted to love them. They start to understand that the love you gave wasn't ordinary. It was healing, but they were too wounded to receive it. That's when the guilt creeps in. Because it's no longer about losing you. It's about realizing what they destroyed by not valuing you when they had the chance. This is where the tables turn, folks. While they spiral in self-reflection, you rise in self-awareness. You begin to see that you were never asking for too much. You were asking the wrong person. You start healing not through revenge, but through peace. You stop taking their behavior personally because you realize their inability to love wasn't your failure. It was their limitation. And that shift, that inner clarity, is what makes your energy so powerful now. Because once you stop absorbing other people's damage, you stop bleeding for what's not your fault. And make no mistake, they feel it. They might not say it out loud, but deep inside, they know you were their mirror. They remember the moments they pushed you away and see now how it was just them avoiding their own insecurities. You triggered growth they weren't ready for. You forced them to confront the parts of themselves they've been running from, the selfishness, the fear, the emotional laziness. And now, with you gone, they can't escape the realization that every time they disrespected you, they were really disrespecting the part of themselves that longed to be loved properly. This is why, even months later, they still think of you. They'll remember how you made them feel accountable without even trying. They'll remember the calm in your tone when they expected a fight, the grace in your exit when they expected chaos. That grace haunts them because it reveals what they lack: emotional maturity. You didn't destroy them, you awakened them, and that awakening stings. So let them look in that mirror, my friends. Let them face the reflection they spent so long avoiding. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone who couldn't see it. You already did your part. You held up the mirror. What they do with it now is their karma, not your concern. Say this out loud and write it in the comments. I was their lesson, not their loss, because that's the truth. You were never their punishment. You were their opportunity to grow. Press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because while they're trapped in reflection, you're walking toward redemption. Number 6. The psychology of regret when they realize what they lost. Regret, my friends, is one of the most powerful emotions a human being can feel. It doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in slowly, like a shadow stretching across their mind. At first, they convince themselves they're fine without you. They tell their friends they're over it. They scroll through their phone pretending to be busy. They even try to flirt with someone new. But deep down, they feel that ache, the quiet voice that says, "You made a mistake." That's how regret begins, not with a crash, but with a whisper. And the moment they realize what they lost, that whisper becomes a roar. You see, psychology teaches us that the human mind is wired to resist loss. We adapt to new gains easily, but we struggle when something familiar disappears, especially when that something carried emotional meaning. When you left, you didn't just walk out of their life. You took the energy, the validation, and the emotional safety they depended on. You were their comfort zone, whether they admitted it or not. So when that disappeared, their brains started going through withdrawal. Just like an addict missing their substance, they start craving what they once ignored. The texts they didn't reply to now haunt them. The moments they dismissed now replay endlessly in their head. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." That pain, that's regret. It's not just guilt, it's realization. It's the moment they see with brutal clarity that they lost something rare. They start comparing every new person they meet to you, and nothing measures up. Because what you gave wasn't replaceable. It was authentic. You didn't play games. You didn't manipulate. You loved them straight from the soul. And when someone loses that kind of energy, no distraction can silence the echo it leaves behind. The worst part for them isn't just losing you, it's realizing they were the reason it ended. They start connecting the dots. They remember the times you stayed when they pushed you away, the times you forgave what you shouldn't have, the times you cared when they didn't deserve it. And now, with time and distance, those memories don't make them proud, they make them sick, because they finally understand that they didn't lose you suddenly. They lost you slowly, moment by moment, every time they chose ego over effort. This realization is what psychologists call emotional dissonance. It's when the heart wants something the mind knows it can't have. They know they can't reach out. They know they burned the bridge, but they still ache to feel your presence again, so they start watching you from afar. Maybe they like your posts anonymously. Maybe they ask mutual friends about you. Maybe they reappear months later with a message like, "Hey, I've been thinking about you." But deep down, they're not just thinking, they're regretting. And that regret is the universe teaching them the value of what they mishandled. Meanwhile, you're healing. You're not angry anymore. You're wiser. You understand now that losing you is their consequence, not your curse. You see, folks, regret isn't something you chase out of someone. It's something life delivers for you. You don't have to wish it on them. Their own memories will do the work. Every night they stay up thinking about what could have been, every time they see someone who reminds them of you. That's karma, reminding them that genuine love doesn't come twice. And one day, when they're truly alone, it'll hit them full force. The silence, the emptiness, the weight of your absence. That's when regret becomes transformation. But by then, you'll be long gone. At peace, glowing, unbothered, standing firm in your worth. Because regret might be their teacher, but peace is your reward. So say this out loud, my friends, and write it in the comments. Their regret is my closure. Because it is. You don't need apologies to heal. You just need to remember that anyone who loses someone like you didn't just lose love. They lost a piece of light they'll never find again. Press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because your peace is proof that you already won. Number 7. Their silent obsession begins. Watching, waiting, wondering. Here's where things take a turn, my friends. This is where their silence stops being strength and starts becoming obsession. They won't tell anyone, but once you pulled your energy away, curiosity turned into compulsion. They begin watching, quietly, secretly, endlessly. They check your social media late at night, scrolling through your pictures like archaeologists digging through a lost world. They wonder what you're thinking, who you're seeing, and whether you've forgotten them. They notice every post, every story, every little glimpse into your new peace. And though they'll never say it out loud, every image feels like a mirror reflecting their biggest mistake. This is the stage where pride starts to collapse. When you first walked away, they believed they could live without you. But as the days stretch on, the silence gets heavier. Your detachment has weight. It's like gravity pulling them back into thoughts they tried to escape. They start checking the time, realizing it's been weeks, maybe months, and they still think of you at random hours. They scroll through your feed, hoping to see a trace of sadness, but all they see is calm. You're glowing, healing, maybe even smiling again. That's when the panic begins, because your peace confirms what they feared most. You've moved on, and they've been replaced by silence. Carl Jung said, "What you resist not only persists, but grows in size." That's exactly what's happening in their mind. The more they resist thinking about you, the stronger the thoughts get. It's basic human psychology. When something becomes forbidden, the mind magnifies it. And since they can't reach you anymore, the fantasy of you becomes even larger. They start to romanticize the past, remembering only the good moments. They forget the arguments, the mistakes, the distance, and only recall the comfort, the laughter, the connection. Their mind starts to turn you into a symbol of everything they can't recreate. You've become both their regret and their fascination. You see, folks, this is the silent obsession phase. They won't call, they won't text, but they'll check your profile 10 times a day. They'll drive past places you used to go together, hoping to accidentally run into you. They'll replay your old voice notes or reread messages just to feel something familiar again. And yet, they'll pretend to be unbothered. They'll smile for photos, laugh with others, but inside, there's a war. Because it's not just about missing you, it's about realizing that while they stood still, you evolved. That's what stings them the most. You didn't just survive without them, you thrived. You took your pain and turned it into power. You started focusing on your goals, your peace, your self-worth. You stopped waiting for closure and gave it to yourself. And from the outside looking in, that transformation is magnetic. They can't look away, because now they're seeing the version of you they always dreamed of, but this time they don't have access to it. That's the silent punishment they created for themselves. And while they're trapped in that loop of watching, waiting, and wondering, you're no longer playing the same game. You've learned that silence is your superpower. You no longer chase validation, you attract respect. Your focus has shifted from proving your worth to protecting your energy. That's why they can't stop thinking about you, because peace is louder than any reaction they expected. So, let them watch, my friends. Let them wonder who gets your time now, who makes you smile the way they couldn't. Let them see the version of you that healed without their apology. Because this silent obsession, it's not your problem, it's their karma. You gave them love, they gave you lessons. Now the universe is giving them sleepless nights and unanswered questions. Say this out loud and write it in the comments. I am their peace they'll never reclaim. Because that's what you've become, the calm they crave but can't reach. Number 8. Letting go was the power move that made them crawl back. Letting go, my friends, was never about giving up. It was about taking your power back. You didn't walk away because you stopped caring. You walked away because you finally realized your love shouldn't be earned through suffering. You stopped begging for basic effort. You stopped chasing validation from someone who could never see your worth. And in that single moment, when you chose peace over chaos, you flipped the entire dynamic. You went from being the one waiting on their message to being the one they can't stop thinking about. That's the irony of letting go. The very act they thought would make you lose them is what made them lose control. At first, they didn't believe you'd actually move on. They thought your silence was temporary. They told themselves you'd eventually come back because you always did. But this time was different. You didn't leave with drama, you left with grace. No long paragraph, no tears, no emotional explosion. You just detached. That quiet, unbothered version of you. That's what shook them, because nothing gets under a person's skin more than calm confidence. They realized they couldn't trigger you anymore. They couldn't manipulate you with guilt or pull you back with nostalgia. You were no longer reacting, and that terrified them. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That's what happened here. Your detachment forced them to face what they buried, the truth that they were the problem. You became their mirror again, showing them how their neglect cost them something real. And now they can't stop replaying that moment when you chose yourself. It broke their illusion of power, because for so long they believed you needed them. But now they're realizing the truth. You were the one who kept the connection alive. You were the reason it even existed. When you let go, you shifted the entire balance of energy. You stopped feeding the dynamic, and suddenly they had to face life without your emotional presence. That's when regret turns into desperation. They start reaching out again, trying to test if the door's still open. It might come as a, "Hey, just checking on you," or "I've been thinking a lot lately." But don't be fooled. Those words aren't love, they're panic. Because they can feel you slipping away for good, and deep down, they know you've found peace they can't disturb anymore. It's almost poetic how life works. The same person who once made you feel replaceable now feels invisible without you. They start to crawl back, not out of love, but out of realization. The realization that your absence made them face their emptiness, that no one else listens like you did. No one else understands their moods the way you did. And no one else makes them feel safe the way you once did. You became the standard, and now they're haunted by the fact that they failed to live up to it. But here's the truth, folks. By the time they crawl back, you won't even crave what you used to. You'll look at them and see what you once romanticized through pain. You'll see how much you've grown since you stopped needing their approval. Because letting go didn't just make them regret, it made you evolve. It turned your pain into strength, your silence into wisdom, your love into power. That's why they want back in. Not because you changed to please them, but because you changed for you. So don't let their return shake your peace. You're not the same person who begged to be seen. You've learned that the strongest move you can ever make is walking away with self-respect intact. The same silence that made them doubt themselves is the peace that rebuilt you. And if they come back, and they will, remember, you don't owe them access to the healed version of yourself. Say this out loud, my friends, and write it in the comments. Letting go made me powerful, because it did. Your silence, your peace, your detachment, it wasn't weakness, it was transformation. And that, my friends, brings us full circle. You see now, letting go wasn't your loss, it was your rebirth. The moment you stopped chasing, the universe started aligning everything meant for you. They're watching, regretting, and realizing. But you're finally free. You've reclaimed your peace, your power, and your purpose. Remember, what's meant for you won't require you to beg. It'll flow naturally. So keep growing, keep glowing, and never look back. If this message spoke to your soul, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs that reminder today. Stay strong, stay grounded, stay unshaken.